line. So actually, immigration has phone numbers that people can call into. We jammed the whole thing. And after doing the jamming and protests and all this stuff, 2 days before they were going to deport him, we saved him from deportation. And he actually still in the U.S. And we did that with about 30 different people throughout those 2 years of our first day. The second thing that we did is we said, well, a lot of the stories about immigrants in the media says that we're takers, that we're sort of quote-unquote criminals, that we are bad people, that we're this, we're that. Now, there are people, of course, in our community who do crazy shit, just like in any community, right? But the majority of the immigrant community, anywhere across the global north, is working class. They're just coming here to work and figure out how to send money and survive here, right? So the story is completely fucking crazy. So we said, if we're going to change the law, we have to change the story of the country about us. I don't know if this makes any sense. We have to change the weather, because the newspapers cannot be saying crazy shit. Like the newspapers say crazy crap. So we said, well, first now we have to tell our story. So, for example, people started coming out actions and started kind of borrowing from the LGBTQ struggle and saying that we were undocumented and unafraid, meaning that people started to say their status, which is a big legal risk for people. I don't know if this makes any sense. Because you're exposing yourself to immigration. So hundreds of students came out all across the country chanting these things. I mean, it was very liberatory, it was fucking scary as fuck. But people were doing it everywhere, right? Telling their narratives, telling their stories, right? Hundreds of rallies everywhere. Some students were a little crazier because, like, well, we have to actually do more crazy shit. So these 4 students, Gabby, Isabel, Juan, and Carlos, Felipe, did something called the Trail of Dreams. They walked out from Florida, which is, let's see, it's right here, from Miami, Florida, and they walked all the way here to Washington, D.C. They walked. It took them 5 months, 1,500 miles, and they said to immigration, if you want us, come get us. Immigration never did because the media was there. Right? And this is very important because most of the media perceives immigrants as criminals. So once you actually have young people saying, well, we are undocumented and we want to be part of this country, immigration doesn't know what to do with us because they don't want to be seen in the media like they're assholes, that they truly are. But there was crazy shit, there were rallies, there was civil disobedience, there were hunger strikes. This young woman here hunger strike for 40 days. She didn't eat for 40 days. I was carrying her in a wheelchair through Congress in her 35th day or something. She wouldn't eat, even though we said you should eat now. There were, all kinds of activities for those 2 years, protests outside of state houses. This is, we did a 21-day university outside of the White House. That's the White House, right? That's my bro right there. For 21 days, people got arrested in the U.S. Senate. This is in Miami, Florida. I guess the Miami students, that's the only way they get attention. And then something happened. In 2010, we lost one of our chambers of Congress. How do you call it here? The Parliament? What's it? The House of Lords and the House of Commons? Is that the other one? Okay, so we lost one of those. Okay, well, we didn't lose them, but who's the good political party here? Well, who do they say are the good guys?
Technically, Labour are the left leaning.
Technically it's the Labour. Okay, for us it's technically the Democratic Party. Again, thank you for the word technically. It's a technical. And then who are the bad guys here? Conservatives. Okay, for us are the Republicans, right? And I know you have the UKIPers too, right? They're our Tea Party. So I guess we're doing great. We're doing very similar. So we lost one of the houses and we were thinking, holy guacamole, like there is no way we can win this thing because we were trying to push for this law called the DREAM Act. That's why we spell it DREAM Act, right? That will give us papers to young people like my brother and myself. And we said, okay, well, if we lost one of those chambers, what do we do? Because the Republicans or the Conservatives are fucking crazy. I mean, they're really out of their fucking mind. Is it okay if I swear?
Sorry, it's a bit beyond that point by now.
They evoke a lot of passion within me because they're nuts. They really don't care for anybody but themselves. And then we figured out that there was actually a period called the lame duck session that is actually after the elections, the party that was in power before can get and come back and do laws for 15 days. It's pretty interesting. I thought it is a thing they do here. Okay, I thought we got it from you all, but I guess we got it from somebody else. So we said, well, we were super tired and depressed at this stage, because this is probably, the student organizing is probably just that. It's like you're very happy, you're very depressed the whole time at the same time. And we said, well, what if we just do something and we try to finish a year and we push for a vote for the Dream Act? We push for a fucking vote. And we said, okay, great, well, we have this lame duck, what if we take over Congress? Great. So we figured out, we called out a couple students and we went to DC. And the way that our system would work, so I'm gonna tell you, I already went through 10 years, so now I'm just gonna go through a month very soon. People will come in, and these are pictures of the members of parliament, is that what you call it? Members of parliament, the MPs, right? And then people get into teams and they will go to Congress. But this is the thing, who here has spoken to a politician? Raise your hand, this one. Great, okay, so half of the room, that's great. So the people that haven't not, don't do it. But the way that you talk, when you talk to a politician, you get two answers. So we will go to their office and then we'll knock the door, we'll get a meeting. There's two answers you get from a politician. These are my experience. One of them is, I hate you, I will never support you. Okay? They're very, some of them are very direct. They don't even look at you, they think you're a piece of shit, whatever. They tell you that. But the other one that I think is most common is what I call the shoulder. Now, the shoulder is that they touch you like this and say, oh my God, you're such a great citizen. You are a model. We need people like you. Do you want tea? Do you want coffee? Oh my God, you're so great. We gotta be friends. Has anybody seen this Dynamics AI? Beautiful. So we get the shoulder a lot. And then a month happens and we have a vote and this pastor voted against us. And we go and talk and say, but dude, you gave me the fucking shoulder. And he says, but you don't know anything about politics. It's easy for them to betray you. Is that true or not?
Yeah.
So what we will do is we'll go to their office, 9 a.m., and we get the shoulder. We'll go at 10 a.m. with a new group of students, and we get the shoulder again. 11, the shoulder, 12, the shoulder, 1, the shoulder, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7, and on. And at some point, we're taking all the time of all their meetings. There's people from all over the country calling their office. So their phones, anytime you're in the office, their phone is ringing from somebody from our team in another place. And they're so fucking annoyed. I don't know if this makes sense. Right? And this is the thing. Politicians are big liars, okay? I don't want to hear anything about this. We can discuss it as like political science. 80% of them are big liars, okay? Maybe 20% are good ones, they should go to college stuff. But politicians, after a while, it's very hard for them to lie when you're face to face. That's why they hide. I don't know if you noticed. Politicians never really like to be in public. They go to public for a little and they go. Because it's really difficult to lie to people that have serious problems. For any human being. But after 6 or 7 days, the politicians' faces are like they're contorting and shit. Because they don't know how to lie. So at some point they're ignoring us, but there's all this momentum being created, right? And from being 15 days, the session gets extended to 20 days. It's a huge deal. Because getting in I don't know how's Parliament here in the UK, but getting the US Congress to do anything is like impossible. Not even the fucking lobbyists can do it, with all their money. So we did tons of actions, and it's like, we're trying to keep the media engaged, because for us the media is a big deal, the public perception, right? So we're doing marches every day, we're talking about the economic impact, we try to play dress up, we're doing days with people of faith, we're engaged in all kinds of communities, but I want to tell you one story that might be useful to illustrate what we do to kind of like polarize the public. So one day, it's probably day 25 or something, the media gets bored. Let's just put it that way, right? They get bored. They're like, oh, you're doing another march. Oh, that is awesome. It's like, oh, great. Or, no, we're going to put new things on the signs. Yeah, whatever, right? And then we're thinking, well, the media's getting a little bored. How can we capture the attention of the American public? Because that's really what it means. How can we capture it? We got to tell a different way to tell the story, right? So again, the story is a word taker. So we wanted to actually say, well, technically we're givers. We get exploited from our labor. We're contributing in so many ways. We're donating in so many other ways. We're actually trying to keep up. We're revitalizing a lot of the economy, but yet we're seeing as takers. This makes no sense. But if we say that, people are going to feel antagonized. You have to say something else. So we said, we're going to do a day of service. And I think this was around Thanksgiving. And, there's tons of things that happen, but I'll tell you just one little snippet. We said, we're going to do a series of blood drives. So there was a blood drive in Harvard University. There was a blood drive in in Washington, there was a blood drive in Kansas, whatever. And the way that the blood drive will work is that we'll call the Red Cross, and the little RV will come. Do the RVs come here too? The little RVs? Like a little cars to get your blood? Okay, good. So the Red Cross came, and we're in the RV, and there's 50 students with their caps and gowns, because we rock the caps and gowns everywhere, That's our uniform, Gandhi cut the whole thing. We have the caps and gowns, right? And we have 50 people, and then we're all donating blood, right? The Red Cross is loving it, it's like pure nice. And then the media comes kind of at noon. We already, tons of people donated, and the Red Cross and asks us, well, I don't understand this. You're trying to push a vote in Congress. What does this blood drive has anything to do? And we said, don't worry, let me explain to you. What this blood drive is, we're trying to ask the American public a very simple question, which is, would you take our illegal blood? And they're like, what do you mean? I said, yeah, we're illegal, right? That's what people call us, quote unquote. So would you take our illegal blood? Do you take it or not? So the media goes crazy. Because first of all, there's such a stupidity to call somebody's blood illegal, right? But that's what people, when you call somebody illegal, right? That's the stupidity that it creates. So we are playing on the opposition's arguments. So they start going and asking different. So they ask the Red Cross. They interview the Red Cross, and actually, I can probably pull another PowerPoint. I'll give you the article so you can see it. They ask the Red Cross, and they ask the Red Cross, what do you think about this? Like, are you really going to take their blood? And the Red Cross is like, oh my God, we love their blood. There's been so many students. It's from the iron and all these things. The Red Cross is not letting. They're little vampires. They want money. Then they go ask the quote unquote good guys, right? The Labor Party or the Democrats. And they go ask them. And they go ask John Kerry, the guy that ran for president a couple of years ago. And they ask him, and he says, 1 out of 300 people in America give blood, These people are American patriots, And this is actually a picture from the newspaper, I'll pull you up. But we have tons of pictures in the newspaper. And, most of the pictures of immigrants in newspapers are in jumpsuits and handcuffs or whatever the crap they want to put it. But no, look at us. We are like bleeding for the country. Super patriotic, right? Of course, most of us don't care about this crap, but I'm telling you what we're trying to convince the public. And then they go ask the opposition. They ask the conservatives, and somebody from the opposition said, "This is the blood of rapists and murderers." I'm telling you, literally what she said. Literally, this is what she said. And she said some more stuff that I want to share. So what is this? What is this? We call this a dilemma action. Why is it a dilemma action? Because whatever we do, we win. Whatever the opposition does, they lose. Why? Because if they take our blood, are they supporting us, yes or no?
Yeah.
Our illegal blood, by the way. It's kind of like a punch in the nuts, right? Our illegal blood. But if they do not take our blood, who are they against? Everyone else. This is how you polarize the public. Because now, let's say, we actually were imagining, I was having like organizing wet dreams, it's an organizer's wet dream, right? Was that immigration was going to come and was going to arrest people here. How would that picture look? Holy shit, people would be getting more angry, right? In my wettest dreams, I thought like Red Cross was gonna get the blood and throw it on the streets, and that was gonna create an uproar. Are you following me on this? See how this works? It's no protest now. The government has, and it's like what? It's like fucking a blood drive, right? What is Red Cross gonna do? We actually send a press release post giving the blood. They couldn't even prevent us from giving the blood, right? Like, we were like, if they were actually going to throw the blood, we wanted to keep this going and say, you know what, if you got in a blood donation in the last 24 hours, it probably came from a thief. Just to fuck with the right wingers. Are you following me in this? And then suddenly, the whole country starts thinking about this issue in a very different way. And it starts humanizing the issue. Are you following me on this? So we did all kinds of that crazy shit. And after about 40 days, this thing lasted actually 45 days. This whole campaign was every day like that for 40 fucking intense days. And within those 45 days, in the 40th day, we had a vote in the House of Representatives. And we won the vote in the House of Representatives. And we're coming out of that vote like we are the freaking champions, like the Queen song, We're just like, we're going to win this thing. And then we're going to go then into the U.S. Senate. and try to figure out if we can win this vote. Now, they had scheduled the U.S. Senate vote 3 days before Christmas, and the vote was very complicated because we felt we could lose. But also a lot of us had a lot of dreams that we were gonna, get something happening for our families and ourselves by Christmas. So there's a lot of hope, there's a lot of emotion. It's 45 days, we've done everything we could. And we walked into the vote and there's 200 of us that overflowed the U.S. Senate, okay? Everybody's holding hands, we cannot clap. And there's a bunch of bastards in the bottom voting for the law that would affect our lives, and we don't even get to say anything about it, okay? There's another 300 students outside, there's thousands of students across the country. The Spanish television, which in the U.S. there's 50 million Latino or Spanish-speaking folks in the U.S., they stopped their programming for the whole Saturday and they just transmitted the vote. Everybody across the country was watching this thing, and it was insane. And everybody's seeing this whole thing. And sadly, we lost the vote. We needed actually 60 votes in the U.S. to pass the Senate, and we would have passed this law. We got 55, and actually 5 people from the Labor Party, or I'm sorry, the Democratic Party, same thing, voted against us. Okay, the quote-unquote good guys also voted against us, and we lost. And it happened the same thing as I was in high school. This is some of the images from that day. This is in Los Angeles. Those are some of them in Congress. Tons of despair. That picture, New York Times. Tough. My life has been more with failures than with successes, to be honest. And then I went back home, and because it was Christmas, and probably one of the saddest Christmases I've been in back home. And I went to talk to my mother because I didn't want any football stories. And I went to talk to my mom, and my mom has this thing, and there's something that we guys need to improve, is that we don't like to share our emotions because we're acculturated that that's bad. And my mom is like a ninja with emotions, and she doesn't even have to hear me say anything. She looks at me and she figures out what's going on with me in like 2 seconds, She's a ninja, She feels everything. It's amazing. And my mom looks at me, she said, Carlos, I know you're not doing well. It's like, of course, Mom, I'm doing well. I'm broken, Because the movement starts fighting itself up, like cancer. Because people start blaming each other. I don't know if this makes any sense. Like Congress failed us, but we start blaming each other for some reason. That's what happens in movement. And I asked Mom, well, Mom, yeah, it's tough. I really wanted to quit, I asked my mom. This is tough. Like, maybe I'm not cut out for this. This organizing thing is too hard. Like, it's crazy. My mom said to me, well, Carlos, but you did great this year. Your team, you all did amazing. It's been a good year, Mama, but we did not win. And my mom just looks at me. And my mom doesn't really give me a lot of advice in a sense of she does give me a lot of advice, but it's more like there's advice and that it's wisdom. And you kind of have to get it, but sometimes I don't really listen to it at the beginning. I don't know if this happens to you. But my mom says to me, well, Carlos, it seems to me like you need to understand one thing. When she says those words, I know I gotta pay attention, but I didn't pay attention. And she says to me, Carlos, the distance between the possible and the impossible is this much. And I was like, first I got angry. I mean, what are we even fucking this mad? We did hunger strikes, we did rallies, we were outside. We fucking gave blood to this country. And my mom says, no, Carlos, it's this much. And I was like, but Mom, the Republicans on the House of Congress, the politics are against us. We're getting all this backlash. We spent $100,000 on that campaign. We're fucking in debt. Our leaders have dropped out of college. Some people are going to be in deportation proceedings. We're screwed up. My mom said, no, Carlos. You have to understand. And my mom is a doctor, but she's not. She's in the struggle with it. She's like, at that time, she says the distance between the possible and impossible is this much. And I knew at the time that my mother was not talking about politics. She was talking about belief. Some people call it faith or purpose or different words. But she was saying there's something greater that you have to think about. So, I guess all of our mothers were talking this way. And we started reorganizing our organization. We did a national congress in Memphis. We started doing more trainings. And this is something interesting that happens. I'd like to think that we tend to overestimate what we can do in 1 year, but we tend to underestimate what we can do in 10. I don't know if this makes sense. And actually, in 3 years of our organization, remember I showed you that it was 7 groups? Now we have 50 groups all across the country. The network had grown dramatically. But we were so caught up that we had lost this one campaign because it was 2 years of effort that we were just so depressed. So we started thinking, well, what do we do next? What do we do next? And all these new people started coming on board because they had seen the news that day on Saturday and they were like, holy guacamole, this is so exciting, I want to figure this out. And we said, well, if we're going to try to pass anything that was going to give us some protection, we found out that actually John Lennon received kind of administrative relief from the government about 40, 50 years ago, 60 years ago. And the president did that without Congress. So the president could do something. So we said, well, if they did it for John Lennon, why can't they do it for ourselves? Right? But this meant that we were going to have to do a campaign against Obama. Okay? Where's Obama? He's right there. Okay, we'll talk to you in a second. That we'll do a campaign against Obama on an election year. Now, in the U.S., the Democrats need a majority of the Latino population to vote with them for them to win the presidential elections. Okay? So they need to give the Latino population something. But this is the thing. We were going to do a campaign against the president in an election year. It's a tough-ass campaign. Because all the people from the Labor Party or from your friends is telling you, you're crazy, you're going to go against Obama. And who was running against Obama last time? Mitt Romney. We meet again. Right? And people are thinking, you're going to create this condition where Obama's not going to get any of the Latino vote. He's going to lose, and you're going to have a worse president. Are you following the risk here? But we were saying, no, Obama promised us immigration reform, and he has not delivered. At this time, he had deported over 1 million people. Today, it's 2 million people. Okay? I don't know how you feel about Obama, but to me, I think he could have been a better president. And to many different communities, at least to the Latino community, he's been a really bad one. Okay? He's actually been one that I don't like at all. So we started doing this campaign, and I'll just tell you 2 stories, and I'll stop it because I'm talking too long. This young woman, Mercedes, she came very young to Tennessee, and then she gets caught by immigration a week before her high school graduation. She goes to jail. There's a whole fight to get her out of jail, as I told you with the other story. We got to do calls, we got to do push. Immigration is trying to charge us $5,000 for bond. I mean, it's insane. We get her out 2 days before graduation. Her team does, and she gets to graduate. That's her graduation picture right there. And she has a sweet and sour graduation. Sweet because she's graduating, sour because now she has an order that she has to leave the country in 6 months, even though she's been in the country over 10 years. Okay? At the same time, this is what was happening constantly, deportations everywhere of our peers. And at this time, we heard that a large Latino organization called the National Council of La Raza, or NCLR, was hosting their annual conference, and they had gotten the president to speak at the conference. This is kind of a conference of a lot of what I call the fancy Latinos, like people with some money, And, and of course there's some not so fancy Latinos there too, like myself. And, they go, but this is the thing that happens. Obama, this is what was going to happen. Obama was going to go speak there. It's a year before the election, a year and a half before the election. He's going to go and he's going to do the speech, people melt and angels come up or whatever in the speech, right? And then the paper, and then people are going to clap him, and it's going to be in the paper, Obama wins the fucking Latino community for that event, right? And we're like, this is his only event on that summer. We're thinking, God damn it, we got to do something about it. And somebody says, well, what if we interrupt the president? And we're like, oh. Well, that makes sense, right? You don't want him to say anything, you should interrupt it. The logic makes sense. But he has something called Secret Service, They have guns, they can shoot him, And then we're on documents, it's like, it kind of adds to this whole thing. So we're thinking, okay, well, what do we do? So then we talk to this organization. They're super angry at us because we literally are telling them, look, you got to let some of our people be there. You got to hold Obama accountable. This is bullshit. He's deported 1 million people, whatever. We're getting into this whole fight with them for weeks. And then they said, fine, some of you can be at the event. And we said, well, Mercedes has to be at the event. And maybe some other people said, and they said, well, as long as your people, meaning me and other people, are not there, we're good. It's like, okay, deal. Little did they know. Okay? So the day of the event comes, and this is the thing. This is how it was going to go down. Mercedes was going to be here, right? Obama was literally here. She was right in front. There was 3,000 people. She was wearing her red cap and gown. As I told you, that is our attire. We literally get out of the shower and just put that on. And the president says these words consistently because we watch every speech he says, and he says, we're a nation of immigrants and we get happy, and then he says, but we're also a nation of laws, and we get super depressed because the laws are against immigrants. So we know he was going to say this. So when he was going to say this, Mercedes was going to stand up, and there was people on the back that were hidden people. And they were going to start screaming and try to interrupt. Okay? It's very difficult in a room of 3,000 people. So the president comes up, and he's so good and suave and all the good stuff. People have already heard of Mercedes because the president of the organization introduced her to the crowd. It was all very set up, okay? And then he starts speaking, whatever, and then he says the keywords, right? We're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation of laws. And Mercedes starts standing up. Cap and gown, starts standing up, standing up, standing up, standing up, standing up. In my organizing board dreams, again, I think she and the president had eye contact. I mean, at least he's thinking, why is she standing up? On the red cap and gown in front of me, right? And then the people in the back see her from the back, and they start moving the chairs and screaming, and they're like, yes, you can! Yes, you can! Yes, you can! They start screaming there. And you know how people do crazy shit when they're in crowds? Not by themselves, but in crowds, or safe or whatever. So suddenly all those fancy Latinos and not so fancy Latinos were clapping. And then suddenly everybody starts chanting, yes, you can. And the president gets totally fucking interrupted. Okay? And this is the thing, it's another dilemma action. Because, yes, you can, it's his own slogan. Is that true or not? What is he gonna say? No, I can't. Oh, no, how can you say that? Right? He was set up. So he gets totally interrupted, right? He starts becoming, you know how he's so suave and smooth? He starts becoming a little Robin and ends his speech 5 minutes before. Okay? He finishes the speeches. He knows he got totally interrupted, right? He goes down and he tries to find Mercedes. Finds her, right? And says, hey, don't worry, honey. I'm going to take care of you. Okay? That's what he said. And
did he give the shoulder?
Oh, it was a shoulder for sure. And then Mercedes, but when he says it's only you, it really means only her. Are you following me on this? She takes her cap off, gives it to him, and says, just give me this one back to me when you take care of all of us. He takes the cap and he walks away. He got the message. This happened for 2 years. And I'll end with this part. So we confronted him on an election year. This is some of the actions that happened. This outside of the White House. Different stuff happening. And then it's the year 2012. My brother graduates from high school. He, I'm very excited. It's been 8 years. And I feel like a complete utter failure because it's been 8 years. I haven't won anything locally, nothing nationally. I'm just like, well, what were this fucking 8 years about? When I was 18, I thought I was going to change the world in a year with my friends. In 3 years we're going to eradicate poverty. That was how naive I was. I mean, it was just being a dreamer, in the real true sense of the word. And it's been 8 years, nothing has been. I go to my brother's graduation. I'm like, dude, congratulations, good job to you, whatever. But like, I'm just depressed, because it's been a promise and I want to fulfill my promises, and I thought I worked hard with my teammates about it. So then, 4 days later, we get a call from the White House. Actually, my teammate Gabby gets a call from them. And the White House, in their politician's word, says that we might give you what you want. And we're like, well, I don't know, we don't believe it. Next day, we wake up, and I get a call and says, get on Facebook, Carlos. And I get on Facebook, and in Facebook, people are sharing this press release from the White House. Like maniacs. You know that everything happens on Facebook now. And people are sharing this to Facebook, and what we found out is that the president had actually ordered an administrative order and will give 1.4 million undocumented young people like my brother and others work permits and some sort of temporary protection. It was humongous. I went to talk to my brother, and my brother's like, holy shit. I'm like, dude, wake up, we gotta go to Facebook, we gotta check this out. He's like, holy shit, this is crazy, Carlos. And then suddenly, a lot of things started to shift. It was the largest victory of the immigrant rights movement in the last 26 years. 2 years ago it was, we just had another victory for 5 more million last year, but 5 more million people, but it's been humongous. It really has shifted the perception of at least young undocumented people in the country. We still have a lot of work to do for our older parents, but it was huge victory, and I remember still the words of my mother, that the distance between the possible and the impossible is this much, and it truly is. And really her wisdom was really key on this stuff. And this is a picture of my brother and his work permit. He does look very happy with his work permit. He got this 3 months later. And actually, my brother has recently applied for a study abroad program in China. He got accepted, and he leaves today. Actually, he should be leaving in a couple of hours from Boston. So it's for me, this is like deja vu, talking about the story about my brother and knowing that today he's not even going back to our country group. He's going first to China. You know, and I get in his mind, he's thinking, well, I said I was going to go to China 8 years ago. I'm going to fucking China. So, you know, it's very exciting, and we still have a lot of work to do for a lot of our community back home. But we think it's a story of hope, and it's something that we can all learn to do more everywhere. So that's it.